I'll let this exposition of misguided royal antics speak for itself. As a result, I'm sure you'll appreciate my refined sense of humor more, and admire my bloated sense of irony. Once, when wishing was useful, there was a princess so beautiful that the sun was astonished whenever it found her face. The beloved, simple girl liked nothing more than playing with her favorite toy, a golden ball. One would think she'd aim higher. A talking frog with the strength of a retriever and a yen for intraspecies hanky-panky. But she never hesitates. That's confidence. Or something, 'cause she's thinking frogs live in water and croak and can't hook up with humans. But, oh, princess, the well feeds into a cavernous country cistern, which is well-bred kin to a city sewer. But, those rats have to evacuate somewhere. Which in frog means, have you seen a thing that looks like the sun, only smaller? His frog friends presumably help him out. He finds the golden orb. Forceful fellow. My hat. Some creatures have an aura of command, and others are meant to be ordered around by frogs. The frog's presence is bearable, and he enjoys her food, but every mouthful the princess takes seems to choke her. I like this direction. Uh-oh, it's senseless to ask the frog to behave. Fortunately, the princess takes him up to bed. The gate to the Frog King's realm looks extremely promising. A golden gate can only mean happily ever after, right? They'll be fine, no doubt. There are rarely more than 2 generations presented in a given tale. Here's why. It's simply not credible, and would therefore be distracting to posit more than 1 generation of these dopes as capable of reproducing. Let's move along. The princess always plays alone? That's entertainment? That's healthy? Does her family think she's autistic or slow? Are they the cause of this? A royal person with an unwholesome fixation on a solid gold ball may be an arrogant, spoiled brat. Let's see how that plays. Now that's what I was hoping to see. The princess promises to love the frog? Doubt it. She wants her ball back, and she thinks a simple dinner date will satisfy her obligation. I might invite a cute creature over for dinner, but her? Frogs are supposed to be slimy and gross. Let's get real. And he has a job to do. The frog, who's eager for tonight's dinner and would prefer to not be on the menu, looks for the golden ball. It should be a challenge. The cistern needs to be more like a fetid sewer. 1 small step for a man is about 3 medium hops for a frog. So, when an unarmed amphibian comes knocking, he's never going to get in on his own. Let's make him multiply. Our frog is finally having dinner with the royal family, but he's much too well behaved. He's a king at heart, remember. Let's invite our other frog friends to make it more interesting. He's all affability and good manners at dinner, but some postprandial hijinks of an intimate nature are sure to be on offer for dessert. Nice. The princess has fled and tries to keep the frog at bay. So, let's give our slimy friend a little hand, shall we? Oh, yes, a suitor with a 3-chambered heart in the bedchamber. That's dicey. Parents are okay with this? What the hell? That's how it happened? I suppose. A waiting carriage whisks our slimy sweethearts away in the dead of night. Off to greener pastures, perhaps? I've got an unusually good feeling about this particular wedding. Was this a coronary version of a chastity belt? How are the bands installed? Never mind. Let's make that real gross. Amphibian revenge could be an ugly thing. The princess and the Frog King arrive at his estates. Maybe the royal amphibian story was only half true. What if she has to become more froggy? The happy couple looks a bit too human, don't they? Let's make them ribbity. This royal wedding has a pleasantly swampy theme. The bride doesn't look too pleased, though. Not the sort of family reunion she had in mind, I'm sure. The union of bewitched beasts and humans is a tiresome theme in fairy tales. Things always work out for the humans in the end. It all happens a bit predictably, doesn't it? What if there were really significant challenges to overcome? The princess doesn't play alone by choice. Look at her, unsocialized and unloved, obviously neglected and isolated in a dangerous place. Her repetitive motion is a clear sign of depression. Who, besides me, of course, could blame her tears? Finding the ball is the least of his worries, really. There's a humongous rat that thinks he's just seen dinner. He gets the ball and goes. That liquid is nearly solid. Undaunted by the princess's subtle threat, the frog shows up for dinner and takes over the proceedings. Perhaps the princess conceals her joy for cause. More likely there's none to hide, leaving misery and abuse for an unknown future as bride/indentured servant to a frog-like being is not an unqualified happy prospect. Toy with a frog's affections? Bad idea. Gobsmack a frog? Go to jail. Or worse, marry a frog? Ugh, you don't even want to think about it. May all our stories end so well. Until next time, ribbit. Had this credulous, lazy Jack merely swapped his mother's well-being for some magic beans, he'd have remained an anonymous fool. But add high crimes and misdemeanors to his folly, and he gets a tale named after him. He wouldn't know a fair price if it bit him on the backside, and note that finding a paying job never occurred to him. To verify this dubious character's claim would presumably be too much like work. Besides, he's besotted by the prospect of possessing magic beans. Their very existence now threatened, she recommends a nap. Oh, well. Overnight, and here I remark that even a blind pig occasionally finds an acorn, the beans grew into a gigantic beanstalk. Jack pays no heed to her words or tears. With no plan, with no clue, he begins to climb. Must have looked easy. Typical Jack. Frequently wrong, but never in doubt. No resources, no skills, no idea of what he's doing. In short, no sense. But instead of dying unknown and hungry, he's saved by the kindness of a stranger. Is he grateful? Not today. So, Jack abuses his saviour's hospitality. Twice he robs her husband, and, not satisfied with a single windfall, his greed leads him back for more. Is there anything excepting honest work this boy won't do? If Miss Blunderbore were any less perceptive, she'd be a mineral. It's like Jack met the only person in the world less discerning than himself. Lucky boy. Jack is a thief, and the ogre is really not impressing me. In many tales, there's little to differentiate between the threats and insults of those about to be winners and those about to be dead. The rhyme would go, "The giant fell down and broke his crown, etc., etc., blah, blah," as if Jack even knew how to use an axe. Jack and his mother became rich, and it's said that he married a princess and that they lived happily ever after. What he did to acquire his fortune is clear. What he did to deserve it remains a mystery. If you'd like a different version of Jack, one with more verve and age-appropriate reality, play on! Let the misery begin. A clueless cow, more fit for the knacker's yard than for the market, fires up this terrible tale of reckless woe, theft, and murder. Which cow to sell? Let's make the choice a little easier. Barnstorming! Jack and the cow share a common trait. They revere inertia. Let's give them a good reason to move. The standstill earns Jack and the cow swift kicks in tender spots. Move out, boy! Get on, Bessie! A garden variety bean seller, far down on his luck but not lacking in chutzpah, sees Jack and the cow and decides he wants to enter the cheese business. Oh, so now he's dealing in magic beans. Who'd buy that? Jack, that's who. Let's seal the deal. No good can come of this. So let's get on with it. Not quite the windfall she expected for the sale of their prize bovine. Phooey. Mother beats the tar out of Jack until the sun comes up. All right, that might help. Most would say, not much, but not me. Beat on, Mama, beat on. And in the morning, the beanstalk juts high into the sky and through a few villagers for special effects. Come on, boy, get on board the Grimm Express. We've got giants to topple. Jack climbs the beanstalk. I'd like it if he fell. Too bad Jack falling to his death can't be part of the story. Air seems a bit thin up here. Ah, that's better. Was that a whale? If I had a house, I could probably see it from here. Nothing focuses the mind like vertigo. Monkey grip. I think I'm getting a touch of green thumb. Now that's a room with a view. Jack stumbles upon a giant's castle. Some would call this breaking and entering. Oh, good, some proper mischief. Our lad tries to steal the golden goose. Too bad that beast doesn't have the brains to bite Jack's head off. The goose isn't enough. Jack goes for the gold. Let's make his life a little more interesting. Surprisingly aerodynamic for a golden goose. Smell our tail feathers, you great bellowing oaf! Whoa, someone has a little weed problem. Let's do some gardening. At last, Jack's returned home. Let's finish this thing off proper. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. And the bloodier. Jack barely escaped death and a steady job, and more's the pity. But it wasn't all golden eggs and happy days, was it? No. Call it karmic debt. Who walks through the befouled pastures of robbery and homicide without getting a load of psychic manure on his shoes? It all had to be paid for, and it was. Only his mother, a monument of self-control, could resist assaulting him with a sharp implement as she placed their future in his idle hands. The stranger knew his man, dim as a deep cave. Had they been of similar size, Jack would not have escaped the encounter with his trousers. Jack goes to bed, his supper laying heavier on him than his bruises. While he sleeps, the beans become a hideous beanstalk. To those without wit or expectations, anything out of the ordinary is remarkable. The true Jack has neither the imagination nor the inclination to explore the beanstalk. But his mother, recoiling from the prospect of dependency on a mutant bean, helps him exert the effort. Jack's stomach is a strong persuader, and always trumps his brain. When he wants to fill his face, no risks deter him. It's a miracle he survived childhood. Fortune, however, is fickle. The lady likes him as a child likes a cream puff. Her motives are clear to us, but not to a dunderhead like Jack. He acts as he always does, without a thought for anyone but himself or for anything but the main chance. For once Jack gets high marks for initiative, fear of death will focus even the dullest minds. Now Jack's survival is assured. There's so little justice in the world, having dispatched one of his adversaries and incapacitated the other. Fool that he is, his advantage was temporary. If Jack had ever heard the old saw about sticks and stones, he may have missed the point. Perhaps Jack grasps the saying that it's better to be lucky than good or competent, but probably not. And his luck, such as it is, did not last. He never married. He had to care for his mother, who was an invalid, having been struck by a carelessly thrown bag of gold. Jack suffered from a chronic chicken flu, and the golden harp sang nothing but funeral dirges. Yes, he escaped poverty and starvation, but at what cost? And why was it necessary? Ah, there's the rub. May all our stories end so well. Until next time.
皇帝专制的封建政治制度，历来都不是天下只此一家，别无分店。毕竟普天之下莫非黄土，老百姓们平时交苛捐杂税是义务，被人鱼肉一下是责任。皇帝的征兵攻势铺天盖地而来，朝廷的爪牙无孔不入地拉走田间街上见得到的男子、农民乃至商人，都被编入了军队。木兰决定代父从军了。这年头，参军还得自备武器装备，没武器是打不成仗的。就这样，木兰女扮男装，代父从军，以这段长征开始了她金戈铁马、戎马半生的生涯。伴随着将军出生入死的他，作战十分勇猛，立下了赫赫的功绩。几年后，他的军队遇上匈奴大军，最后决战终于来临。军队凯旋回归后，皇帝例行都要赐宴百官，木兰声名在外，自然也在宴请之列。木兰这个年轻可爱的女子终于又回到了故乡，家里为她准备庆祝会，弟弟还为她的宴会宰了只猪。男人嘛，总会幻想一下女英雄的出现，我当然也不例外。不过故事中的木兰就未免有点索然无味。且不说她要保持身份的秘密，与一堆男人同行12年，他们还要不知木兰是女郎。难道他们都没发现这人从来不用刮胡子，从来都不会脱光衣服洗澡？我是男人，我就很怀疑，难道你不会吗？木兰的老父今天有点烦，人家年纪都一大把了，政府还这么有诚意的邀请他打仗。只要你脑子没进水，就会觉得这样的木兰没有可能成为军人，要改头换面，把不可能变成可能。木兰需要人帮帮忙。管你邻家女孩神奇女侠，都要盔甲兵器才能当兵上战场。他惠顾的市场熙熙攘攘，对压顶的战云似乎还一无所知，这还得了？要成为大能的战士，仅仅弓和头盔还不够格，木兰还需要盔甲。就来用血汗千锤，用眼泪百炼，养成一代名将吧。当然，骑兵嘛，也少不得一批坐骑，不然也不叫骑兵了。木兰只怕需要头高大点的吧。这些马儿毛光水滑，高大膘足，实在不像打仗的战马。我们怎能坐视不理这个状况的？应该让他们为食物争个死活。看他整装待发，正式上战场，把敌人打得屁滚落花流水的时候，他准备好了，战场又准备好迎接他了吗？军队终于来到汹涌的黄河了。慢着， 黄河，怎么河水一点都不黄？我们有责任匡正事实，还黄河应有的颜色。黑山头名字倒是有点意思，可在这不毛之地，这些翩翩起舞的蝴蝶又是什么回事？那该死的孤寂感呐！朋友们，明摆着的事本来用不着我来唠叨，可什么时候见过一块不是岩石的大岩石？战争打仗一向是我最喜爱的运动。是了，为什么这里没有血流成河？让我们用血来描绘一幅写实版的战争图画吧！要流血，那就打吧，打个血流成河，把那些匈奴人从哪里来打回哪里去。木兰与匈奴王决战的时刻终于来临。木兰虽说算是久经沙场，可始终是女儿身，双方不是一个重量级的，这可不是吃点类固醇之类可以弥补的差别。军队凯旋回归后，皇帝例行都要赐宴百官，木兰声名在外，自然也在宴请之列。那时代真是有趣，这种女子才能配得起我嘛！呸！最讨厌这些老十字庆功仪式。按说给那些死了的开个追悼会，埋掉拉倒，有点功劳的追封个什么官就是了。不过如果我们能令这些酒和烟火能起点化学作用，来个爆炸或是什么乱子，这还有点看头。木兰这个年轻可爱的女子终于又回到了故乡。穿军装的木兰英姿飒爽，怎能不令全村的男人为之疯狂？那是不是说又会有一场婚礼啊？我看不然，木兰怎看怎不像会嫁人的那类型。为什么？让我们给村民用行动解释解释吧。他的心全放在战场上了，他当然不会嫁人。要说一个连青少年都算不上，瘦得像猪肝的农村小女孩能女扮男装上战场打仗，这样的故事真是鬼才信。不过慢着，如果真是有鬼或是什么超自然的力量帮忙，木兰说不定真能有戏唱了。战争时候，连发死人财的军火商都不能幸免，要勒紧裤带过日子。到这个份上，什么顾客永远是对的，当然就被抛到九霄云外了。不过，也不是说这些商人以前的底貌有多好。看他整装待发，正式上战场，把敌人打得屁滚落花流水的时候，以木兰的聪明才智，区一条河怎么会难得倒他？在黑山头的山道上，军队遇上了另一个难题。木兰和将军历经艰辛地来到军营。是的，要找到这些打完就丢的匈奴人是有难度，不过最终……那时代真是有趣，一个坚强伟大的女子自己掌握自己的命运。愿我们其他所有的故事都能有个如此圆满的结局。好，下集再与大家相会。
Nearly every culture has a tale about how an ordinary piece of firewood becomes a dull-witted and naughty human child. The enchanted premise must appeal to something eccentric or unstable in the human brain. The story always begins with a humble carpenter, desperate for a son, but without the ability to acquire him in the usual way. He makes one out of wood. The wooden juvenile delinquent has a companion, as unlikely as himself, a talking cricket. The other puppets see Pinocchio as kin, and Fire Eater gives him some money for Geppetto. Will that money make it home? No, would be a good guess. Idiot should be his middle name, and the cricket knows it too. Having so little character of his own, Pinocchio's a miserable judge of it in others. Hung up like laundry by would-be assassins, who are not so bright themselves, a fairy with blue hair rescues him. Forever the fool, Pinocchio suspects he was the victim of mistaken identity. Cat and fox hung the wrong talking puppet. The mind boggles. Now he plants his money, expecting something. So he does his time, and when he gets out of the jail, he manages to leave the simple village, we're not allowed to ask how, evidently, to look for the blue-haired fairy. Subject to being sidetracked from what's important by any nonsense, Pinocchio's search for the fairy with the azure coiffure is trumped by Toyland. He plays around for months, and then, because he's Pinocchio, finds out she's dead. Oh, the sentiment, the depth of feeling, the distraction heals the pain. If only it would do so much for me. A circus buys this newly minted donkey and takes him away to teach him tricks. But Pinocchio becomes lame and is sold to a man who has a different fate in mind for him. In the course of his escape, the donkey transforms back into a marionette, but as he swims to land, he confronts a more aggressive obstacle. Pinocchio is reunited with his creator in the belly of a gigantic shark. There's a whole community in there. Everybody's pretty happy, except the sun doesn't shine and it smells of rotted fish. Otherwise, it's tolerable. Not that anybody had a choice. That's a real ending? Real as the baby who never cries, or the politician who never lies. Speaking of which, that lame bit about his telltale nose, rubbish! Like lying was his major problem. Horse poop! If you want to see how everything went off the rails, play on. Geppetto crafts a self-animating puppet, and the craft is not the hammer and chisel sort. The old carpenter had help. There's a dark art at work here. The fiend-powered wooden boy terrorizes the village despite his father's protests, and the best efforts of an insect. Well, no wonder. Boys will be boys. But wooden boys may be devils. Oh, yeah! This knotty pine punk knows how to treat a gate. Nothing like a helping hurt from the powers of darkness. Pinocchio trades his books for tickets to a puppet show. Naughty! But he can do more. Pinocchio is accosted by cat and fox. This is hardly a mugging. This looks like cuddling. We hate cuddling. Pinocchio buries his money, expecting it to multiply. What he should expect is misery, owing to the fact that he has sawdust for brains. In the town of Simple Simons, Pinocchio reports his money stolen. Foolishness, even if misguided, should never go unpunished. Pinocchio's impertinence lands him in jail. Certainly he was stupid, but criminal? No! He wants revenge, but he can't do more than yell at the guards. Pinocchio visits the land of toys. Blech, a place where children are happy. N'existe pas, in my experience. The idea's almost as wrong as a wedding. Let's make 'em all regret being here. Pinocchio, slow as ever, doesn't realize that children are turning into donkeys. The childhood diversion, pin the tail on the donkey, becomes something more sinister in an adult setting. Pinocchio is sold to a man who wants to use his skin as a drumhead. That's wonderfully despicable. A nice sunny day, a beach filled with children, and a giant shark. I know where this is going. Pinocchio and his fellow shark dwellers have built a merry village in the monster's belly. How ridiculous! Geppetto and Pinocchio are reunited, a classic father and son reunion, but not complete without a little satanic ritual. Pinocchio finally transforms into a boy, as if becoming human will make him less bad. Nah, real boys are just as naughty as the wooden satanic ones. This might be an instance of the rubric of no good deed goes unpunished. If we thought that turning a piece of wood into a boy was a good deed. That'll show 'em! You've captured the dark implications of a walking, talking puppet. But who made this thing? An evil shaman? A necromancer? A demonologist? And how would such a twisted mannequin really treat the so-called normal world? This wild child makes delinquents and criminals vomit from fear. He's an ugly, murderous little brute with a taste for the suffering of others. Reminds me of me. You rarely see a puppet with a good arm. This cast appears to lack certain essentials, but he evidently really wants to see the show. Little did he know, exorcism always hurts the exorcised more than the exorcisers, if that's a word. Funny that way. Hurt to help, they say. A bleeding heart with blue hair? It's too much! I suppose the blue-haired fairy has a point of sorts, but she misses one too. He overplays his hand. In this village, that sort of reckless if hyperbolic statement is regarded as a threat, and as such, immediately challenged. Besotted by visions of power and his own nastiness, he mistakes his will for the dark art that made him. He never sees how his lack of brain power puts him at risk. Nice. Bray that, you boob. See here again, Pinocchio speaks too soon. When he says he's happy, he knows not of what he speaks. Ah, yes, Pinocchio, you can leave. When Geppetto works his magic, you're about to take a ride. Don't you just love it when the shark blows up and everything else is unresolved? I mean, if you tried to put a bow around that mess, it would sink like an anchor in a fishbowl. May all our stories end so well. Until next time, eh? It's nearly a pity we're not surprised that Briar Rose's parents are unable to protect her from a credible and precise death threat. But couldn't somebody, anybody, tell her to leave that spinning wheel alone? Premature death for a blameless child? Typical! When another fairy converts this lethal curse into a 100-year nap with a royal wedding to follow the wake-up call, it passes for good luck! Ah, well. Despite her father's efforts to destroy every spindle in the kingdom, Briar Rose seeks her own appointment with her somnolent destiny. Careless, unhandy, or simply because of the old fairy's dark magical decree, she pricks her finger and falls into a deep sleep. The good fairy forgot to mention that Briar Rose wouldn't sleep alone. To prevent nosy or malevolent creatures from molesting the sleeping princess, a vast and impenetrable web of menacing brambles and jagged thorns grew up around the castle. Over the years, the rumor of a sleeping princess attracts several princes, not all of them savory suitors. Of course, all of them failed miserably in their attempts and died pitiful deaths. The time was not right. 100 years means 100 years, even in a weak-kneed fairy curse. On the very next day, the prince finds the thorny hedge has turned into bowers of beautiful flowers. Talk about gilding the lily. Every sleeping thing he passes on his way to the castle awakens. Here's a man with a limited grasp of his role in the story. But let him live with his illusions. Indeed. Classic morning mouth, perhaps. 100 years without brushing. I wouldn't mind, of course, but perhaps he was looking for a more salubrious bus. They were married. Great to-do of a wedding, usual splendor and wretched excess, la-di-da-di-da. No mention of the good fairies who came to the christening, or the one who cursed Briar Rose. Maybe the old bag died of boredom. Everything works out well for Briar Rose. Lots of waiting around for things to happen, wasn't it? While milk-toast fairies stand yapping at the christening, a wicked old crank lays a curse on the head of the child. You call that a curse? I'll show you what real dark magic is. Whoa, now that's evil. But why do we have to wait 15 years to see the curse fulfilled? Boring! I'm not waiting around. Let's muck about in another tale, eh? A peasant with a craving for Rapunzel implores her husband to fetch the delectable stalks from their neighbour's garden. Fetch? That's stealing by another name. Oh, I like the odd bit of larceny. Let's give him a hand. Now we're in the thick of it, the thief holding his edible booty, and a chance for a clean getaway. I hate clean. Let's complicate things. Oh, did I mention that the neighbour was a witch? But she didn't even curse him out properly. That's no punishment. Theft is a capital offence. Hey, it's not my law. Ooh, that's got to hurt. The witch punished the thief and snatched the daughter. That's as it should be. He tried to save his own ass at his child's expense. Total failure. Later, hag, I hear a spindle rattling. Briar Rose is about to get pricked. After 15 years, she's still as pretty as a broken jaw, and as foretold, the ninny pricks her finger and falls asleep. Seriously, I'm going to nod off too if all we get is a drop of blood. Ha-ha! That'll keep 'em dozing for a spell. But it means we're on the road again. This arrogant miller tells the king his daughter can spin straw into gold. The king commands, "Show me or die." Thanks, Dad. A peculiar little mannequin offers to assist her in exchange for her firstborn child. The girl wishing to live agrees. There's something unnatural about exchanging babies for wishes. Oh yeah! Solid gold rocks! Woo-hoo! We dropped it on 'em! We flattened them! The king who would have killed you now won't turn you loose. When's Junior due? Well, get to it. I'll check back in a few. Rapunzel must have hit puberty by now. The benighted witch holds teenage Rapunzel in a tower, keeping her out of harm's way. If you get my drift, this place doesn't look very secure. Practically invites villagers, with or without raging hormones, to pilfer powerful herbs and flowers. Let's change the status of this place to lockdown. That's my kind of wall. Slices, dices, and chops. Hey, Witchy, why aren't you laughing? This is good stuff. Don't like black humor, huh? Maybe if I make you dark. Gestation complete, the mannequin returns to collect the child. The miller's daughter, now a queen, welshes on her deal. Instead of turning her into a toad for her treachery or killing her outright, he offers her a game. Guess my name, Queenie, you pusillanimous piece of cow dung, and I'll go away. This is monstrously stupid. I want to make him go away. Ha-ha! An apt end to an ineffectual life. Make friends with Satan while you're down there. Maybe he'll teach you how an enchanted mannequin behaves. Ah, a bad day for the dark side. The witch failed to keep Rapunzel for herself. She did manage to deprive the girl of her hair and her suitor of his eyesight. The blind prince and the bald Rapunzel drift aimlessly through life. Oh, heart-wrenching, isn't it? No! And a good deal more blood would be needed to convince me otherwise. Of all the coincidences and misbegotten courtships, this one takes the cake. Two hapless lovers wandering the world rediscover one another when they take refuge from angry bees and naughty children. Stonings rarely end happily. Rapunzel recognized him, which was lucky. She would have been the proverbial sight for sore eyes if he had any. Oh, wonderful. My kind of love story. Everyone weeping blood in the finale. Cursed to sleep for 100 long years. Yet I see nary a wrinkle, liver spot, or putrescent growth among 'em. cursed to a rather long nap, more like. Too soft. Time for some accelerated aging. Rather forward, isn't she? Nothing like 100-year nap to prime an appetite. A pox on deferred gratification. Briar Rose makes me wait and wait and wait for resolution. I'll wager you'll have a good conflation of dastardly, destructive, and darkly magical outcomes as much as I do. Ah, damsels in distress. One is never enough. Oh yeah, here's a fairy I can relate to. Well, evil is as evil does, dearie. She looks and acts super bad, but her curse is still super boring. Well, that's just about next to useless. I can't wait around. Next, witch! Great gobs of goo. Do none of these witches value my time? I'm supposed to stand here watching my hair turn grey while their plans spin out? Ah, we'll get back to them later. If we're lucky, they'll have expired from old age. Now this makes sense. No way that witch who cursed Briar Rose would leave things to chance. That's a load of red corpuscles. White ones, too. A powerful soporific. She'll be a little tired. Let's go find some action elsewhere. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Rapunzel's tower. Ooh, idiots on parade. No way she mistook the prince's voice for the witch. In my view, she was ready for some mischief. You got to admire a witch who knows her own mind. Let's see if the baby's out of the oven. Ooh, now that's painful. Served him right, in my opinion. But she deserved some suffering, too. Back with Bleedy Eyes and Baldy Locks. I knew they were up to something in that tower. Let the tears of joy and suffering flow. Briar Rose did not age, but the old fairy's magic wasn't strong enough to stop time for everything, nor was a kiss. Yuck, too bad, really. That was a near miss. We avoided yet another tendentious assertion of perpetual bliss achieved via marital vows. All our damsels escaped from the worst of their fabricated distress, but they found others. Such characters always do. May all our stories end so well. Until next time. Ever ready to exploit tales of the capricious missteps in nature's grand journey, the brothers eschew their usual dwarves or gnomes to set their lesson, and settle instead on a hero smaller than an infant platypus. Thumbling, no bigger than an elephant turd, plays at being a courageous mite. Perhaps the novelty of protecting his child from the claws of the family cat is worn thin. There goes Thumbling, seeking his fortune, whether he wants to or not. Out on his own, his principal challenge is to avoid being squashed. He tries several crafts to make a living, doesn't make much. Currently, he's teaching horses to haul. Not very inventive, but effective nonetheless. With more experience of the world, Thumbling might have seen through this offer, but there'd be even less of a story to tell. This perhaps was not the circus Thumbling had in mind. There's so little honesty in the world, but the fleas promise not to bite. One's perception of job satisfaction can alter so very quickly. Having escaped the dubious pleasures of the circus, Tiny Thumbling becomes a quarry to a domestic beast. He leaves eventually, of course. Even a tiny person can only stand so much proximity to mouse feces. Still, his escape is bound to be an out-of-the-frying-pan into-the-fire situation. Luck's about all he's got. Despite being poked, prodded, stabbed, and smoked, Thumbling makes his escape, a little worse for wear, and returns home, not much wiser, no more fortunate. Oh, joy. Well, it's rather pointless, isn't it? Young lad leaves home to seek his fortune, has adventures of a sort, but fails totally. Had he been full-sized, he would have failed in other ways, perhaps more interesting ones. Let's see if we can make better sense of this mess. When Thumbling threatens to leave his family, it's fair to wonder why. His life here seems so cozy and safe. A pint-sized person would need a very good reason to run away from such comfort. I believe I can help. You see, Thumbling's at best bored, and the needle's nearly an instrument of torture. He can't master cross-stitching, he's a bit of a dreamer, and perhaps not so well loved as his full-sized brother. He wants out. Still, his pater doesn't think he's ready for life on his own. Smarter than he looks, his dad. So Thumbling plots his own escape. Doesn't seem to be in much of a hurry, though. Well, if he wants to go, let's light a fire under his ass. Thumbling's trying to display his horsemanship. But the nag can't or won't hear a thing from this end. There's an obvious path to his goal, but it's certainly the road less traveled. Geronimo! Thumbling tries a horse whisperer routine, directing the old horse where she needs to go. I don't think the message is getting through. Maybe some wax in the ears. Let's shake things up! Having been shanghaied into service at the flea circus, Thumbling tries to fit in. The audience seems a little bored to me. I don't think these acts are death-defying enough. Let's make it really daring. And the crowd goes wild. Blood sells seats and keeps the crowd hungry for more. A story as old as time. Ah. Well, this is another fine mess. Time to show 'em what lurks in the truly dark corners. A fortuitous hole provides temporary succor among the mice. Lucky Thumbling. Place looks comfortable, but are his hosts happy at his arrival? Even Thumbling seems a little bored. So am I. Let's stir up a little chaos. Restoring the natural order. Red in tooth and claw. That's what I'm all about. Now a butcher, baker and candlestick maker can't be far behind. I don't see much evidence of the dirty work. Let's get the blood flowing. Let that be a lesson to the porcine among you. Seems the butcher supplies a nearby town. Guess those piggies are for the chop. Let's make bacon! A Viking village? Well, who am I to question fate? They look a little too cheery. I prefer my Vikings with a little more Ragnarok. Thumbling set out to see the world. But he never thought he'd see it end. Ragnarok! Can't ask for better than that! Young boys leave home for many reasons. Adventure, money, or love are strong motivators. But just as often, disgust and anger open the door, and provide a swift boot in the butt. Slave labor allows this savage shop to make a profit. Well, size does matter, apparently. Thumbling works, if I may use a dreadful concept, his way toward the recalcitrant quadruped's ear. This intestinal odyssey was really his only way forward. Hard to imagine a more disgusting journey. I love it. The amusement of performance has worn to a grisly nub. The cage is less gay. Misery is palpable. Revolt is imminent. Thumbling, if not slightly smarter than the fleas, is a bit stronger. He makes his escape at their expense. Our boy eludes his oppressors, but is quickly forced to seek shelter from a ravenous, marauding feline. By which Thumbling meant, I'll escape while the cat scrapes your body parts from his teeth. Oh yeah, our thumb-sucking searcher winds up in a butcher shop gone rogue. Out of the feline frying pan, into the slaughterhouse sausage. Thumbling has something more than bad karma, but his luck holds, I guess. He lives, though only to be abused. Never a dull moment. Another escape is required. No wonder the whole Viking town is ill or dead. They got tired of the halibut-only diet and gave themselves over to the butcher's diseased fare. Thumbling became a vegetarian. No neat resolution, no happy ending. all you can say is the little guy's still alive and looking for trouble. He's bound to find it. May all our stories end so well. Until next time! This sublimely revolting tale of narcissism, sexual repression, and murder has been dumbed down so often that its chilling power is nearly exhausted. Application and some humor might revivify the corpse, but it's beginning to smell, so no promises. The deceased queen's replacement arrives. The wedding is typical muck. The new queen's a typical royal. Very beautiful, selfish, and vain. 7 years on, and the queen's beauty is undiminished. Snow White, though just a girl, is extra pulchritudinous herself. The queen keeps a close eye on the female competition, irrespective of age, station, and familial connection. Still, the queen, ever insecure, constantly asks the truth-telling looking-glass, "Who's the fairest of all?" Inevitably, after some years, she hears what she fears. The queen turns a kind of putrid chartreuse with envy. Nice! Now she thinks she has a good excuse to hate her stepdaughter. The queen's narcissism is such that her hatred quickly morphs into murderous intent. The huntsman's courage was no match for the queen's anger. She had the truth from him in seconds, and hatched a plan to eliminate her rival. She'll execute it personally. Oh, clever queen! Only the red cheek is poisoned. Snow White, evidently famished, could not resist the apple after she saw the old crone eat part of it. But as soon as she has a bite in her mouth, she falls down dead. The dwarves find no obvious cause of death. There is nothing they can do. They are helpless and bereft. Snow White is dead. The 7 dwarves sit by the coffin and weep for her for 3 long days. They want to bury her, but she still looks great, like she's asleep. The dwarves take pity on him and give him the coffin. His prize, possession, and love object is a corpse, and pity is more valuable than gold? What a world! A shocking piece of incredible luck! The poisonous piece of apple is dislodged. Never mind that she hasn't been breathing for days. Glass coffin, regurgitation and reanimation, marriage. There are many arbitrary and unsatisfying endings to this tale. If you'd like to see Snow White's stepmother get her just desserts, play on. The snow and the ebony picture frame are convenient if banal sources of inspiration. But would a few red corpuscles motivate her? Not bloody likely. Let's open an artery or two and paint this scene red. We've got a bleeder here. She could be a Romanoff. Better staunch it. Hear ye, hear ye. Let the bells ring out, inspired by her brush with sudden death. The queen wastes no time in getting knocked up. Time for our fair Snow White to make her entrance. Or is it an exit? Either way, let's make it a prompt delivery. A zero-sum game. Well, the queen had to go, served her purpose, and the story needs a stepmother. So, on with the show. Years have passed. Snow White's reputation as a stunner is widespread. A flawless diamond by some accounts. Not really my cup of tea. I prefer deep character lines and a few warts. As I say, there's no accounting for taste. The widower king decides to take a new wife. She is gorgeous, but is it more than skin deep? Let's peel back some layers and find out. Knew there was more to her than met the eye. Seems like she'll be wearing the proverbial pantaloons in this royal relationship. I predict a reign of bloody terror. Goody gumdrops! Not just pathologically vain, but psychotic to boot. Oh, she's a real catch. Her pet mirror assures her she's the most beautiful woman in the land, not to mention the most lethal. But what about Snow White? That mirror doesn't seem up on current events. Let's break the bad news. The Queen commands her huntsman to rip Snow White's heart from her chest, so she can have it for lunch. Queenie doesn't mess about, eh? Cannibal is a compelling character trait. The huntsman won't refuse her, doesn't want to become an entree. The Queen's taste in sandwich meat, while morally dubious, is not unprecedented among Amazonian shaman. While postponing the murder and prolonging his own agony, he forces Snow White to spend her last moments witnessing a fascinating cart repair. He is cruel. Pleasant spot for a bit of open-heart surgery. He hesitates, judging the keenness of his blade, still cogitating his grisly mission. Well, he can't stall forever. Let's force his hand. A heart is a heart. What luck! The wolves will get Snow White, he thinks, and he's off the hook for the murder. Moral midget. The Queen might be fooled. For a while. But her Gabby, oh no, I cannot tell a lie. Mirror? Don't think so. She's still got her heart, but now she's lost in the woods. What she needs is some motivation. Let's give this place some teeth. What's this then? Strangely familiar. Tidier, smells different, but a certain déjà vu-ness, no doubt. Anyway, let's see what she's up to in there. No bears about. Must qualify as breaking and entering, though. Well, entering at least. There's still some breaking to do. Let's do some remodeling. Dwarves who hate messes, and after I worked so very hard, too. These fellas aren't right, in more ways than one. Beautiful woman around and all they want is a housemaid? Oh, well. At least Snow White will learn what it is to work up her sweat. Don't break a nail, dearie. Ha 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 ha. Happy little miners whistling while they work. I don't think so. It's my duty to dwarfdom to show my cousins the light, or the dark, as it were. As she returns to the house, Snowflake, barely revived from her tumble, meets an old crone who... Ah, for the love of... It's the vengeful Queen, you idiot! Pity her mum didn't wish for a daughter with some perspicacity. But that apple doesn't look as life-threatening as I'd hoped. Let's make it lethal. You again! You infuriating prickly pear! Always stealing my thunder! Oh, and Snow White's dead now. Boo-hoo! Tragic. Utterly tragic. Just look at those weepy bastards. More gnome than dwarf, I tell you. And a glass coffin. I mean, really. In a couple of weeks, that's not going to be a pretty sight. And the smell. Let's celebrate her passing. No, I won't accept any pretenders. There can be only one Grimm. There's just one option. Let's be friends. Make it gleam. La 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 la. What do you call a person who's unnaturally fond of the dead? Shouldn't her cohabitation with 7, albeit odd, fellows raise serious questions, even to an ardent suitor? There's an air of inevitability here. A spectacular wedding's going to happen. I'll need the whole gang to deal with this outrage. Guess you're coming with me, eh? Porcine Fury! It's clear. I've got a wedding to crash. Let's move! Let's get this over with. A head by a nose. See? Size does matter. Not quite a flamethrower, but you'll do. Let's ride. To those who are about to be squished, I salute you. A delicate queen's simple longing for a lovely daughter initiates an untoward turn of events. A plain child would have been less trouble and caused less pain, but it wouldn't have been much of a tale. Snow White is a euphemism. Cherry Slushy would be more apt. The dead queen's barely cold when her substitute arrives. The king was looking for a new partner, but presumably left the vetting process to others. Not bad. Perhaps I've misjudged this woman. No. Snow White, her underdrawers intact, evaded the huntsman only to run into a ravenous wolf pack. Hacking and clawing, she stumbles into a dank abode. The bargain holds. The house needs constant attention, but it's quiet and the smell is only mildly nauseating. The dwarves don't bother her much when she takes a bath, and they're mostly away, doing stuff in the mine. The queen had her way. The huntsman fooled nobody but himself, and he's paying the price for his delusion. The wicked queen's disguise is good, but Snow White, even dazed and confused, is not entirely stupid. Snow White seems dead, been dead some days. The funeral ought to be a sure sign that she's expired, but a look at the mourners suggests a different conclusion. At last, nuptials I can relate to. The offspring of this revolting union will require a very wide berth. Well, this ending is marginally less stupid than the one that has the wicked queen paying for her crimes by falling off a cliff. But her dad escapes the nasty fate he's earned, and the dwarves, nothing much. Well, it's Grimm's world, really. They're just living in it. Except the queen. May all our stories end so well. Until next time.